Pretty interesting today.
We're live on YouTube.
All right. Welcome, everybody. House Energy and Digital Infrastructure Committee on Friday, April 25th. And we are going to quickly discuss and then vote on S50, an act relating to increasing the size of solar net metering projects that qualify for expedited registration. I'm Representative Kathleen James from Manchester.
Richard Bailey from LaBoyle 2.
Chris Morrow, Wyndham, Windsor, Bennington.
Michael Southworth, Caledonia 2.
Christopher Howland, Rutland 4.
Dara Torrey, Washington 2.
Graham Flipner, Chittenden 13, Burlington.
Laura Spillian, Wyndham 2.
Garrett Campbell from St. Johnsbury.
Jack Locker, Committee Assistant.
Great, in the room.
Peter Sterling, Rev.
Greg Favor, I work with you, Steve.
John Zucky, I'm here for JP.
Great. All right. Does everybody have draft number 3.2 from Ellen dated 4/24 at 3:35 p.m.?
Yes.
Great. All right. So this draft, I looked it over, and unless I missed anything, I think it incorporates all the final language that we talked about. So just to quickly hit the highlights and stop me. Oh yeah, Representative Southworth.
So there's two instances in here, I think, that we talked about that are not changed. And it refers to on page 4 is first instance, line 5, measured from the edge of the traveled way. We had talked about municipal or state right of way. And that's not added in. And the second instance of that is on page 5 on line 14. I believe we had talked about changing that to right of way because of the issues with ditch maintenance, that sort of thing, and the potential of equipment being damaged by a snowplow with winging or assault.
Just a question. Was Ledge Council in the room when we talked
Yeah.
about that?
So what was the new language?
Measured from the edge of the right of way, because they have a right of way beyond the travel portion of the road where your ditches are and where they can maintain.
Yeah, but sometimes that's quite wide.
You could miss some.
Yeah.
From center line.
In a 4-rod road, 48 and a half, but
It varies,
but
but we
in
talked about
in
adding right of way.
some of the major highways are from 6-rod road to so the Route 5 in some sections is much like.
Yeah, I don't remember getting to agreement on that.
Look
I don't
back out my
either.
notes.
I'm just thinking of my own from a state or municipal freeway.
Well, just think of it as if it goes from the traveled way, that's edge of pavement.
Do we know that though? I don't know what that means in statute.
Oh, okay. It's edge of the traveled way. It's the road surface, the traveled way. Nobody's gonna drive in a ditch. They drive on the traveled way. But if we don't address that, then there's a possibility of it being constructed within the right of way, which poses a lot of issues. Number one, legally, but number two, damage to the road.
This is existing.
I know. That's
Statute.
why I brought it up.
Next question.
Yeah.
Can you just explain it one more time, the difference between the two?
Traveled way is where a vehicle would normally travel on the road surface.
And then right,
There's right of way, which gives them the opportunity to maintain ditch lines.
the right of way can change depending on the road.
They can. Yeah.
But this takes it back beyond what isn't it 25 feet?
It generally accepted to be 25 feet.
It varies.
This takes it way beyond that anyway. So.
No, we're just doing 10 feet.
10 feet.
Mhm. I'm saying you want to change travel way to right of way, and I think that, I guess I don't remember discussing that in depth or agreeing to it. That takes it farther back
Yeah.
than I had envisioned.
25 feet from the center line
Right, so
versus 10 feet from the pavement.
yeah, what Rep Southworth is saying, I think, is that here's the road. So the traveled way is the edge of the road,
Yeah,
basically. Right of way is
from the center. line.
25 feet from
It's
the
measured
center
from the
line.
center.
Yeah, so if you change it to right of way, we pushed everything back.
But that's only on roadways, not property line.
It's not
Right.
that, it's closer. My question was around yours. It's not that, it's closer to the road, not further.
No, it's further.
No, it's further,
Um,
because it's 100 feet from wherever we're talking about. So it's 100 feet from
Oh,
here
I see.
versus 100 feet from
Got it.
here.
Right, we're measuring from there.
Plus 100
Okay.
feet.
Yeah.
And yeah, I know what the chair's saying. She's looking at the 100 feet, 150 kW.
oh,
Yeah, I'm looking at the 140/10. So
What page is that on?
we're on page 4.
Just if we, and then the ledge council is coming.
Ellen said she'd be here at 11:30, but so she should be on her way. Did you text her?
Because it isn't an issue with the other two because of the setbacks, but it's an issue with the 10 foot.
well, let's get rid of that 10 feet then. That's the problem.
Yeah,
Why not?
let's just get rid of setbacks.
But-
If you want that bill to pass out here today, it's gonna be a long day.
Well, or I guess pass unanimous, I guess would be the question. Rep Howland?
A roadway could be as narrow, a travel way could be as narrow as a 16 or 20 foot roadway in a town road. And so we've got a travel way plus 10. Are you saying 10 feet from the 25 foot right away? Assuming that the road is constructed in the center of,
You lost me, Chris. Representative Allen.
so not all roads are built in the center of their deeded
Right away.
in feet right away. A developer puts in a plot and then he builds the road after the fact. He can not necessarily build the center line of the road down the center line of his deeded property for roads that are owned in feet.
I'm talking about municipalities and the state. I'm not talking about developers.
No, when a developer develops a road or develops a plat, they don't always build the road in the center of the parcel of its original plat.
So
It could vary side to side.
I guess, is it understood what I'm trying to address with that?
Representative Campbell, sorry, he's got his hand up.
Yeah, thanks. I see Representative Southworth's point here. And I'm wondering if maybe one way to address it would just be to increase the footage in the first part of this section, the setback from a state or municipal highway to something that's sort of well out of the way. Maybe 25 feet or something like that. Would that be a way of addressing the problem?
So I don't see a problem, I guess. Where I'm kind of at is that this is existing. These are the existing rules that have been in place since this began. We didn't hear any testimony that this has caused any problems with state, municipal, or highway right-of-ways or traveled ways. I don't think any solar installer would put a solar panel or an array where they think it's going to get hit by a plow. And we've made it more restrictive than it
That's
used
why
to
I
be.
wanted ledge council to weigh in, because the definition that she may tell us of traveled way includes the right of way.
Yeah, we'll have to ask her.
But that's up to her to tell us that and
Yeah.
not me.
Let's put it in.
All right, well, let's put a pin in it and keep going, because I didn't realize this was a lingering question. So why don't we take a look at the rest of the bill? Let's start at the beginning. So let's see, we have section 1, which is basically, oh, and I know Ellen moved things around a little bit to make more sense legally with the statute. So there's our, at the top of page 2, you see our first kind of change, which is allowing the customer to change their mind about the rec. Just once after the system is commissioned, and we had changed that from 90 to 120 to give folks a little bit of time and a couple of billing cycles to make sure everything is as they intended. Does that look good to everybody? Okay. Then at the bottom of page 2, you see 15 to 25. And again, on page 3, and we had a question about why that whole thing was underlined, but I think that's just a standard change from 15 to 25, but we can get still when she comes
I
in.
just looked that up. That G is not in the original statute.
That's what I'm doing.
Well, we were speculating that just that it was improperly underlined, but that's not the case.
Yeah.
That
Oh, I
whole G is not in the original statute.
Yeah, my guess is that that's where she's underscoring or adding that, but when she comes in, we can just make sure. Then we are asking PUC in section 2 to update their rules to basically match this new legal language, and also to allow folks to go ahead and use the expedited registration process while they're engaged in the rulemaking process. On page 4, we have a new question about right-of-way, traveled way, and I think Ellen she's in environmental signage. We can get her in here. Then we have our new statewide minimum setback that we've added. And then you can see us repealing the language that had no setback. So basically we've added a 10-foot setback where none existed previously for everything 25 and under. Just another 15 to 25 thing on page 5. And then at the top of page 6, you can see us basically eliminating that duplicative reporting, where you file with the town and then you tell the PUC that you filed with the town. And I think we heard testimony that kind of predated the ability to look these things up on the ePUC system. And then at the bottom of page 6, you see us asking PUC to submit an amended definition of plant to us, and add a little bit of narrative. I can't remember whose idea that was, but it was a good one, to talk about how they came to that, what the process was like, explain their recommendation a little bit so that we don't just get a 1-paragraph new definition. So we'll be able to understand it a little bit in context. And then importantly here, you can see us saying, as you're doing this work, please think about land use. Please think about how PUC can review these thoughtfully to weigh all the factors and then take into account how this impacts ratepayers. And then we have it taking effect July 1. Does anybody have any other questions?
Further changes on page 1. You can say something about.
She struck out an and.
And just,
A lot of times when lead council goes through, they just clean up,
yeah,
little bitty redundant words or something.
Representative Southworth, can I address
Yeah.
Representative Southworth correctly? That paragraph 3 has lots of
What page you on?
On page 5, top of page 5, line 1. There's language in there that between the municipality and the homeowners or the abutters, that lesser setbacks could be. The setbacks could be modified or reduced.
I think we're waiting for Ellen then.
Yeah.
Um,
That may cover it and that may be a moot point.
okay. Well, I don't, Ellen's in, what was Ellen?
Environment.
Senate Environment?
House.
House Environment? Okay, well, why don't we, I mean, we could just adjourn and then wait for Ellen to come.
Suggestion, we have.
Ellen.
Ah,
Ellen now.
perfect timing.
Say my name enough. I'll just wander down the hall.
Ah,
Did you hear, did you hear?
we had a couple of questions, from our members. For the record, you are.
Ellen Tchaikovsky, Office of Legislative Counsel. What's up?
Well, let's do possibly the easiest one. So we saw you move some things around, which is good. On page 3, Rep. Murray, you just had a technical question, I think.
I was just curious about G, why that was. Why we put in a G,
I see it, yeah.
I mean, we already have in statute, right, that below 15 is the expedited registration.
No,
That's not in there.
no. That's why I put it in.
That
So-
doesn't make sense because the rest of the bill, you're just striking out 15 and adding 25.
Yeah, so
But here it looks like you're putting in a whole new provision. Is that Rep. Morrow's?
yeah, I am. So when I first did the walkthrough, I explained that the net metering rule statute has changed many times since it was first created. Originally, there was a directive for the PUC to create this process of expedited registration. It is no longer in the statute. And so you don't have to add this if you don't want to. That requirement is not in the statute. The Senate had interest in making sure it was in the statute so that there was a public statement that requirement was there. So you don't have to add this if you don't want to, but the Senate had interest in putting it here to make that it was clear that part of the net metering rules had to require this. And yes, it didn't say 15 because it wasn't there previously. It's going to 25 because that's what it's being set as.
That's much better explanation.
So it's kind of redundant to existing, but if you want to make sure that there is always a procedure, putting it in statute doesn't hurt.
Okay, I'll talk to you after, make sure I understand that. So say it one more time.
At one time, there was a provision that said this. It no longer exists.
Uh-huh,
So it's putting it in here so that it is clear.
okay.
The expedited registration.
So as the net metering language evolved, the actual baseline sentence saying there shall be an expedited registration process disappeared and it became something that lived only in rule.
Yes.
And so now we're putting it back in statute.
Yes.
Any idea why it disappeared?
How does that not come
Was it
up?
inadvertent?
I don't know.
Did someone see a problem with it?
The statute, the net metering statute has changed many times, like 10 times in the last 15 years. So I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry, I'm writing down. So I'm just gonna say that as the net metering statute evolved, the sentence that explicitly established this expedited registration process got lost in the shuffle. Basically, it was deleted.
Sure, I do think I put something about that in the section by section.
It could be, I'm just
Yeah.
looking at that.
But if you notice, there isn't anywhere else in here that says that the expedited process is required.
And it's not in the underlying statute.
That, yeah.
It is now, but
this
it
is-
wasn't.
Right.
It wasn't.
There was nothing for me to amend originally to make this directive.
Okay. Got it. Alrighty, so Representative Southworth.
So on page 4. And A. When it says traveled way.
Mhm.
Does that include municipality right of way? Or is that covered anywhere in further down? I guess my question is would someone be allowed to erect a structure within a right of way for a municipality or the city? And it may not ever happen, it may happen, but does that cover right of way?
So I do think generally the right of way is larger than the traveled way.
They still have maintenance activities that happen in the right of way. So my concern is if it's built in that right of way, then there's a potential that that person's equipment may get damaged inadvertently during those maintenance practices.
I think they would potentially need a section 1111 permit if they were doing that. So under the Agency of Transportation's own programs, if you are doing anything in the right of way, I believe you need a section 1111 permit, which is about safety. So regardless of this, I would need to check, but I think the Agency of Transportation is very protective of exactly what you're describing.
Absolutely.
That adding anything,
And would that cover municipalities as well?
Yeah.
It would, okay.
yeah, any highway right of way. There is a permit that they issue if you're going to be doing any, just want to make sure it's on the list, but I mean, even for signage that's in the right of way, you need a section 1111 for it. So, I suspect it covers this, but I would need a little more time to read through, but I suspect they would have concerns and would want to make sure it complied with their safety requirements.
Rep. Torrey?
And just in case, just so we don't hold you up being able to report the bill next week, if we were to learn something after we vote in the House, the Senate could make a correction to this. Because don't they have to approve our amended? So there's another, it's not like we don't know the answer today. Our risk.
Personally, I wouldn't want to put anything through onto the floor that we're not sure of everything, especially when after the chair has to.
Well, it's existing law, so it's not like, and I also don't know how pervasive the definition of setback is in the whole, like, would you have to make changes in multiple places?
So Ellen, what you're saying is that you think AOT has a whole separate permitting review oversight process for state and town highway right of ways that's going to supersede anything that's going to be the controlling decision on whether anything would ever get built in a right of way.
I believe so, yeah, because this is 19 VSA section 1111. So a permit must be obtained by anyone wishing to use any part of the highway right of way for either the town or the state system.
Okay,
Yeah, and it has some safety requirements and, I hadn't looked at this in a while, but it came up when we were doing signage. And so even when you have any kind of signage there, they want to make sure that it's not, gonna get in the way with the plows or anything.
And if
So,
you feel it's covered under this, then I'm fine with it. I needed to bring that up. That's all.
so,
Representative?
Just to make sure I'm clear, so if 10 feet from the traveled way, which is the setback we have in here, falls within the right of way, whatever it is, 25 feet from the center line. Someone wants to build right at that 10-foot mark per what we have here, but that's within the right of way. They have to get an AOT, okay. And the AOT will say, that's not gonna mess us up, or that will mess us up, you can't do it, in which case they have to move back to.
I believe so, yes.
Whatever AOT tells them to. Okay.
I don't remember why we picked 10 feet. And we haven't talked to anyone in transportation, so I don't know whether that's,
The Vermont League of Cities and Towns.
they gave us.
Yeah.
That was,
VLCT suggested it as something that would be, again, more than what we have now, which is no setback. And VLCT suggested 10, which would be a nice minimum statewide standard that wouldn't impede the ability of folks to put solar on their property, which is important. But not get into,
And there was a de facto setback because of this permit. 1111.
we didn't take any testimony from AOT.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
It was operating like a set in,
from the roadway,
Yeah,
so not your neighbor's property.
Right.
Right.
The 10 feet was
good
to
point.
avoid
That was
neighbors
sort of
getting
a,
mad at each other.
mhm.
got it.
Yeah, and if Ledge Council is, feeling like this is covered under that, then it's no issue. I just needed to bring that back up.
Ellen, what's the permit called?
1111, it's it's 19 VSA section 1111. 10,111.
19 VSA section 1111.
Yep.
Peter, do you have experience with installers and right of way, or do you have any? I mean, I don't know, from the
Peter
from the
Sterling,
point of
Real
view
Energy
of
Vermont.
solar installers, if they get into right of way.
I'm only laughing because believe it or not, my wife's a right of way agent at
Oh,
Beach Ridge.
That's
And you would
nice
think
disclosure.
I would know all this, but I don't. But I can say this, the driving factor for solar installers is that it is incredibly expensive to go back if an array is damaged. So before they site anything, they look at town maps and establish where the right of way is, and they will be away from that because if they have to move it, because it's all of a sudden in a right of way, and V-Trans wants to move the road or put a culvert in there, that is 5 figures potentially they're paying out of pocket for. And so I would bet dollars to donuts. When they see a right of way, they are going to be as far from that right of way as possible and make, because they are on the hook for fixing something. If a plow nicks it or throws up rocks, and replacing panels is a really expensive proposition. So I don't see how we don't have this problem now because no one goes near a right of way.
So is there an issue just changing it to the right of way versus the traveled way?
I have a,
I think that would create a lot
problem
more
with it.
statute change in a lot of different places.
Yeah, that's risky.
That set it back another 10 feet too. So, because if you're assuming a 25-foot right away and the traveled way is anything from, 13 standard lane, a little bit of shoulder. In a municipality, they don't build out the,
yeah,
a 8-foot shoulder on a 13-foot lane.
But why would the solar people want to even bother be putting in?
They wouldn't want to be near there
right away?
because of the rock.
Well,
So if you build over that right of way and a stone hits it, it's fixing you. If you build right at that right of way and a plow, and you prove the plow through the stone and not the kid, and broke the panel, then you might have some recourse. But if you're in the right of way, that's damaged. And nobody's gonna build in a drainage right away or an additional easement that the town or state has got for drainage easement.
We would hope they would.
Well, no, well, you're right. We'd hope they did, but the sun doesn't shine so well there.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to, honestly, it's difficult to legislate, and I'm not sure it's a good idea to legislate for the worst case hypothetical one-off we can dream up. You know, so.
If the committee is happy with the way it's written, then that's fine. I needed to bring it back up.
Yeah, and I'm just looking, I found that section that Ellen cited for us. Yeah. Permits must be obtained by anyone.
If Attorney Tchaikovsky and Rep. Southworth are comfortable, I am comfortable.
A permit shall be required for any use of any highway right of way. Yeah. Okay, so I think I'm comfortable. Klepner,
Can I ask Rob a question again?
yeah.
So what you're saying is they would probably measure 25 feet from the center line if it was near a highway or municipal, and then go to 10 feet beyond that.
To get out of the right of way.
Or
Yeah.
more.
Or more, they need to.
Yeah. They don't want to be anywhere near it, just there.
And if I could just add to Rep. Howland's point, even if it is V-Trans fault, it's still a pain in the neck if your array gets damaged for the property owner and for the installer.
Right. And that's basically what I'm trying to avoid is an added cost to the owners putting that in. So.
Everybody good? Now there's one more question I can answer. It comes up on the floor. Right away.
Thank you.
Sure.
I notice we're going through two parallel processes here. We're getting comfortable with the bill and you're planning your floor.
And I'm planning my floor report. 19 VSA section 1111. Who knew? All right. If folks are done discussing the bill,
Okay.
okay.
Okay. I
Oh,
move
Tori.
I'm just gonna comment that the first motion
is approved.
is approved and that will be a straw poll.
Okay.
And that the second motion is the one I'll record.
Okay. So I move that we approve draft 3.2 as amended
Just say it.
of, excuse me, S50.
Does it need to be seconded?
It does not.
Straw poll. Okay.
I move we report draft 3.2 of S50 as amended favorably.
The clerk shall commence to call the roll. Sorry, I almost blew my buttons.
Okay. Representative Richard Bailey,
Yes.
Representative Scott Campbell,
Yes.
Representative Christopher Howland,
Yes.
Representative Brent Butner,
Yes.
Representative Christopher Morrow,
Hi.
Representative Laura Bilias, Representative Michael Southworth,
Yes.
Representative Derek Torrey, yes, and Representative Kathleen James.
Yes.
Wonderful. It's 900.
Awesome. So, thanks everybody. That was good work. Dara, we'll get the bill officially submitted and Dara will tell me how we do that. And then, does everybody know we have a token session on Monday?
Why?
But does that do with this statutory requirement on this reporting?
So it means it will be on the floor on Tuesday instead of Wednesday. So on Monday, the speaker, and somebody else or nobody else will basically come and gavel in and say, oh, we don't have a quorum, and gavel out. but it will be a legislative day for all intents and purposes. So this will move off the notice calendar
So this would be on the notice now for Monday.
Monday, and then Tuesday, when we come in, it'll be second reading. It'll be on the action calendar. So I lost a day on my floor report prep.
Do we want to make a motion to extend it another?
I don't think we need to. I think I can get my floor report done and just, I mean, if I get hit by a car and, I'm in the hospital, then we can delay one legislative day. But I think we can bring this to the floor on Tuesday. And I'm going to be working on my floor report over the weekend. Probably, I don't normally do this. I don't know if chairs do this, but I was thinking it'd be nice if you guys saw it ahead of time, but no promises. But if I'm in a perfect world, I will send you guys the floor report ahead of time just so you can see what I'm planning to say. But then we probably won't have time for 9 people to group edit my floor report. Just a heads up on it. But if you see anything really, incorrect or something, of course you could get back to me. That's a pie in the sky thought, but I'll try to get it to you guys ahead of time. All right. Okay, so we're back at 1. Does everybody know we were able to move our testimony earlier? Okay. Yep, we're back at 1 to hear from VHCB, and then we're done for the week. All right, thanks everybody. Lunch.
On the screen.
Lunch off live?